Keyboard MIDI controllers are very great and useful in the studio, but they can also limit you in a lot of ways compared to something like a stage piano or a synthesizer. So in this video, I thought I'd go over the reasons why you might need a standalone keyboard in your studio. Firstly, having one of these keyboards gives you the ability to have access to sounds without having to boot up your computer first. This is especially helpful when you have a new idea for a melody or a chord progression and you want to get that out of your head as soon as possible so that you don't forget it. If all you have is just a regular MIDI controller, there's a good chance that you're going to have to turn stuff on, open up your computer, open up your DAW, select whatever plugin you're going to use to play sounds through, and then get to work. Alternatively, you could just power this dude on and start playing. I love the simplicity that a keyboard gives me to be able to flesh out ideas in this way. And that brings me to my next point, which is having the ability to use these sounds in my productions. Honestly, I'm sure you have some really great sounding virtual instruments in your DAW, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the sounds in a standalone keyboard are going to automatically be better than those instruments. But I love having the option to add to my arsenal of sounds, and these sounds specifically not being processed by my computer, but being processed by the keyboard itself. And depending on what specific keyboard you get, you may also have the opportunity to process effects on board as well, which can be a lot of fun to play around with. Not only that, but having hands-on control of my instrument parameters is a lot more enjoyable than clicking around in the DAW, in my opinion. This Yamaha CP73 is one of the best examples of this. It has 3 dedicated instrument sections, each with their own effects, as well as 2 effects sends, which have their own dedicated parameters. So for the EP section, I can quickly switch to a Rhodes type sound, add a bit of tremolo, adjust the depth and rate of that effect, add a touch of drive, maybe some light chorus, all without having to dive through any menus. Now obviously this specific keyboard excels in hands-on control, but there are a lot of different options out there that at least give you some of this functionality, so it may be worth looking into. And one of my favorite parts about using a setup like this in my productions is the creative limitation that can come along with it. I often find myself being hit by decision fatigue whenever I'm scrolling through my instrument library within Logic because there are so many great sounds to choose from. But the cool thing about something like this is that you can take the incredible built-in sounds along with the hands-on control and see what you can create only using the keyboard. I find that whenever I limit my options during the creative process, it actually expands my creativity and helps me get to creating faster as I'm reducing the decision fatigue. Often this practice helps me develop my ability to use my ear to craft the sound that I'm looking for. There are even times when this process causes me to run into sounds that I didn't know I was looking for. Now, before I get on to my next point, I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I really enjoy making videos like this, and if you enjoy watching them, consider hitting that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. Now, the final point on this list might seem a little bit silly if you're comparing this to a standard MIDI controller, because we're talking about MIDI functionality. I would venture to say that most of these keyboards have impressive MIDI functionality that is useful in a variety of ways. They can be used as a MIDI to USB interface for MIDI devices that don't have USB built in. You can run pre-recorded MIDI files through this instrument to achieve a new set of sounds for an existing performance. You can even set up in your DAW some MIDI commands to change the presets on your keyboard if you want. There's just a ton of potential whenever you're talking about MIDI. And sure, there are dedicated MIDI controllers that do all the MIDI things. But for me, it's the fact that I get the advanced MIDI functionality in conjunction with all of the other benefits that I mentioned before. It's been almost 2 years since I switched from just a regular MIDI controller to a standalone keyboard, and honestly, I don't think I could ever go back at this point. There's a link in the description if you want to check out this keyboard, but I've also added some links to some other keyboards that have similar functionality that are at different price ranges to hopefully fit your budget a little bit better. As always, thanks for hanging out.